There are moments when a single breath separates life from eternity, when the silence after a final heartbeat holds more weight than all the noise that came before. Imagine the stillness at the edge of existence when the body surrenders, yet something within you refuses to be extinguished. What is that presence that lingers, watching as the veil begins to thin? Some have whispered about it in their final moments, an astonished "oh wow" that seems less like resignation and more like discovery, as if the dying are catching sight of a reality hidden just beyond human sight. Could it be that death, the great terror of our age, is not a closing door but an opening one? For centuries, sages, mystics, and seekers have insisted that the end of a lifetime is nothing more than a threshold. Ancient Egyptians mapped it in the Duat, a realm filled with trials and gateways. The Greeks spoke of Hades not as a punishment but as a passage. In Tibet it is called the Bardo, a bridge between the known and the unimaginable. Different cultures, different names, yet all point to the same revelation. Death is not an erasure, it is a transformation. Consciousness is not extinguished. It moves, it expands, it awakens into another dimension of experience. Modern science, cautious and bound by instruments, has tried to peer into this mystery. A Dutch cardiologist once studied hundreds of patients who slipped briefly into death during cardiac arrest. Nearly 1 in 5 described visions so vivid they defied medical explanation. Encounters with radiant beings, sweeping reviews of their entire lives, and sensations of love so overwhelming that words could never contain it. If neurons alone cannot account for such depth, then what are we glimpsing here? Is it the brain's final spark or the soul's first step into its next journey? Tibetan wisdom paints death not as a collapse but as a profound unveiling. In the first moments after leaving the body, the senses dissolve, and consciousness is bathed in an overwhelming luminosity. A light so pure it feels like the memory of eternity itself. Yet most souls fail to recognize it. They cling to their fears, their desires, their unfinished stories, and so the light slips away, replaced by visions shaped by the mind's own contents. The peaceful and the terrifying, the divine and the grotesque, all arise as mirrors confronting us with the raw essence of who we are without the disguises of flesh. And then comes the next turning when karma pulls us forward, weaving threads of past choices into the fabric of a new existence. It is not just Tibet that speaks of such passages. In Egypt's mystical texts, the soul travels through 12 shadowed hours of night, challenged by guardians at each portal, asked to account for its earthly actions. In India, yogic masters describe consciousness slipping from the shell of matter and immediately expanding, like stepping out of a darkened cave into a vast sunlit field. One teacher, long departed, returned in vision to his disciple to explain that in death, the senses fall away, but perception does not shrink. It blossoms. No longer confined to eyes and ears, the soul perceives reality in layers too rich, too infinite, for ordinary minds to contain. Imagine walking into a cathedral of light where every wall, every window, every beam of color is alive with meaning, and you begin to glimpse what they meant. But this freedom does not absolve us of responsibility. Every choice, every emotion, every unspoken thought becomes luminous in that state. Death is not a release from truth, but a confrontation with it. We are shown the mosaic of our lives in a clarity no denial can blur. Some call this judgment, but it is not an external tribunal. It is our own heart weighing itself, our own soul standing naked before the mirror of eternity. For some, this is unbearable, and they remain tethered, unable to rise beyond the patterns of earthly attachment. For others, those who cultivated awareness and compassion in life, the transition is graceful, almost natural, like stepping onto a river that carries them effortlessly into higher realms. In recent times, researchers of consciousness have stumbled upon fragments of this same picture. A neurosurgeon who fell into a coma found that when his brain lay utterly still, his awareness did not vanish but widened, carrying him through vistas of beauty and beings of love that transcended anything he had known in waking life. If consciousness can expand when the brain falls silent, then perhaps the mind is not the source but the vessel, a window rather than the sky. And yet the most startling revelation may be this: death is not the opposite of life. It is part of life's continuum, a hidden phase of a longer journey. Think of it as a cosmic intermission, a period not of sleep but of preparation. Some traditions speak of vast realms, not heavens of idle bliss but vibrant communities of souls, radiant cities where learning continues, where the newly departed are healed and guided. Imagine stepping into a place where thought shapes reality instantly, where love organizes space, where wisdom is taught not in words, but in waves of knowing. Here, the soul is not waiting passively. It is studying, creating, planning its next immersion into matter. Far from being a place of final rest, it is more like a university of the spirit. This vision changes everything. It suggests that what we fear as an ending is only a beginning, that life is not a single fragile thread easily cut, but part of a tapestry woven through countless experiences, countless bodies, countless lessons. Each incarnation is a chapter, and the interludes between them are where we gather the meaning of what we have written so far. If this is true, then our current existence is not an isolated accident. It is a chosen opportunity, a deliberate step in a far greater adventure than we dare to imagine. If we begin to look at life through this lens, everything changes. The pain we endure, the loves we lose, the struggles we battle, none of it is meaningless. They are not random punishments hurled at us by an indifferent universe, but lessons carefully threaded into our path. Some traditions even suggest that before we are born, we ourselves help design the blueprint of our challenges. Imagine that. The very hardship you curse might be the trial your soul once chose, knowing it was the exact key to unlock your next stage of growth. Suddenly, suffering is not senseless. It is sacred. It is not there to break you, but to awaken you. Anthroposophist Rudolf Steiner once described what happens in the first days after the body's stillness. Consciousness, still tethered to a subtle residue of life force, begins to rewind its entire earthly journey. But not like a movie we passively watch. More like stepping back into each moment, feeling not just what we did, but how it rippled into the hearts of others. We see with startling clarity the echoes of our words, the warmth of our kindness, and the wounds of our carelessness. In this panoramic reversal, nothing is judged by external law. Instead, the soul itself becomes the witness and the learner, tasting both the sweetness and the sorrow of its own creation. Perhaps this is why so many near-death reports speak not of condemnation, but of overwhelming compassion. The soul is not being punished, it is being educated. The Egyptians had their own magnificent vision of this passage. Their Book of the Dead describes a journey through night, each hour revealing new trials, new guardians who ask, "What did you do with your time under the sun?" But it was not a test designed to trick or trap. It was a process meant to purify, to refine, to ensure that by dawn the soul could emerge into light free of the weights it once carried. These images of doors, deities, and shadowed corridors were never meant as literal geography. They are metaphors for the landscapes within us, the hidden fears, desires, and attachments that shape what we encounter when we step beyond the body. Modern voices echo these truths in unexpected ways. A yogi once explained that after death, consciousness sheds the chains of flesh and instantly expands into a dimension without walls. Imagine being released from a small windowless room into a boundless horizon. Colors richer than any spectrum, sounds that are more like vibrations of love than noise, awareness that can stretch across worlds in a heartbeat. This is not fantasy. This is testimony, whispered again and again by those who have crossed briefly into the other side and returned. But freedom without understanding can be chaos. That is why many traditions describe this period as a time of integration. All that we experienced on earth is gathered, digested, absorbed into the deeper fabric of who we are. It is not unlike a meal the spirit must process, breaking down every flavor of life into nutrients of wisdom. A lifetime of choices becomes energy to propel the soul forward. The love we gave becomes strength. The harm we caused becomes lessons. The courage we showed becomes light we carry into the next existence. Nothing is wasted. It is here, in this in-between, that the most profound truths emerge. The Kabbalistic Zohar speaks of a judgment of the heart, not an external deity's verdict, but a quiet confrontation within. We weigh ourselves. We cannot escape what we have sown, nor would we wish to, for in the cosmic order nothing is hidden. Our thoughts are substance, our intentions are records, our deeds are echoes that shape the fields of our next journey. In this sense, karma is not a punishment machine tallying good and evil. It is a teacher that mirrors us back to ourselves, guiding us toward balance. This is why souls often find themselves in realms perfectly matched to their inner state. If a person departs in bitterness, clinging to fear, their immediate surroundings may appear shadowed, heavy, distorted. Not because they are being tortured, but because the world reflects what they carry within. Conversely, a consciousness bathed in compassion may rise at once into luminous landscapes embraced by beings of light, nurtured by fields of serenity. The afterlife is not a one-size-fits-all reality. It is a mirror, intimate and responsive. We step into what we are. Some researchers of the unseen have gone further, suggesting that these realms are structured and organized, not chaotic dreamscapes, but living, breathing worlds. Communities of souls, almost like cities where learning continues. Hospitals of light where healers mend the wounds left by earthly trauma. Schools where wisdom is shared not by words but by direct transfer of knowing. Even missions where souls gather in groups to support one another or to subtly influence the physical world. Far from being a realm of eternal idleness, this dimension pulses with purpose. The dead are not gone, they are busy. They are studying, healing, assisting, preparing. It is a continuation, not a conclusion. This perspective alters how we live today. If the beyond is not a final resting place but an active phase of growth, then our lives here and now are not random either. We are in a classroom, one session of many. Each struggle is a lesson, each joy a discovery, each relationship a mirror. What we choose to learn or avoid will meet us again, beyond the veil, where nothing can be hidden. And when the time comes to return to weave ourselves back into flesh, it will be with new clarity, with renewed intent, carrying the treasures and the trials of everything we have absorbed. This realization is both liberating and sobering. Liberating because nothing is wasted, not the pain, not the mistakes, not the moments we thought were failures. All of it is food for the soul. Sobering because we cannot escape the weight of our choices. They do not vanish when we die. They travel with us, forming the very landscape of our next steps. This means every moment matters. Every word spoken, every thought entertained, every act of kindness or cruelty, it all becomes part of the architecture of eternity. And so, death ceases to be an enemy. It becomes a teacher, a guide, a threshold into deeper responsibility. Perhaps this is why the ancients did not fear it the way we do. They built pyramids not just as tombs but as gateways, temples of initiation for the next phase of consciousness. They understood that the grave is not the end of the story, but the turning of a page. We may have forgotten this wisdom in our modern age of machines and measurements, but it waits for us still, written in our very being. When the last breath leaves us, we will remember. There are countless testimonies, ancient and modern, that remind us the soul does not wander aimlessly after death. Instead, it enters landscapes sculpted by meaning, structured by laws as precise as gravity. Some spiritual pioneers called these realms the astral plane, a vast territory where consciousness vibrates in layers. The higher the vibration, the lighter and more luminous the environment. The denser the vibration, the heavier and darker the atmosphere. Imagine walking into a world where your every thought instantly reshapes the scenery. Fear might birth shadows, love might summon gardens, guilt might create labyrinths, and compassion might open gates of radiant light. What could be more intimate than dwelling inside a mirror of your own inner state? One visionary described spiritual colonies of light, places that resemble radiant cities where newly departed souls gather. Here they are welcomed by beings of higher awareness who tend to the wounds of earthly existence. Not wounds of the body, but of the spirit. Regret, bitterness, attachment. These are healed with patience, with understanding, with luminous energy that dissolves heaviness like mist under the sun. In these colonies, souls do not rest in idleness. They study, they teach, they assist. They prepare themselves for new journeys back into the density of matter. Death, then, is not retirement. It is enrollment in another classroom, more expansive but no less demanding. Emanuel Swedenborg, the mystic scientist of the 18th century, claimed to have walked these worlds in altered states of consciousness. He described whole societies beyond death, layered by morality and awareness. The virtuous found themselves in spheres of joy and harmony, while those still bound by selfishness remained in shadowed realms until they were ready to ascend. To him, the spiritual world was as objective as the physical, a place where every soul's environment reflected its essential truth. This mirrors what countless other traditions echo. We carry ourselves wherever we go. We cannot fake it beyond the grave, for thought is substance and being is destiny. The Egyptians envisioned the fields of Yaru, a shining domain where justified souls lived in bliss. But even there, progression continued. Bliss was not the end. It was the soil for further growth. The Armenian mystic Gurdjieff spoke of the cosmos itself as a grand factory, where energies were constantly being transformed and recycled. In this vision, even disincarnate souls had a role, contributing to the great economy of existence. Nothing is wasted, not in matter, not in spirit. Every life, every death, every transition becomes fuel for the evolution of the whole. Helena Blavatsky, a pioneer of esoteric thought, explained that the astral zone known as Kamaloka acts as a perfect mirror. Whatever is unresolved within us is reflected back as our environment. A soul weighed down by shame may find itself in landscapes of torment, not imposed from above but emanating from within. A soul serene in love will find harmonious surroundings, peaceful gardens of light. The afterlife is not judgment handed down, it is resonance, pure and exact. We step into the frequency we have cultivated. Modern research has stumbled into the same truth. Psychologists studying near-death experiences have cataloged consistent patterns. Encounters with luminous beings radiating unconditional love. Panoramic life reviews that expose every action's ripple effect, and landscapes that respond instantly to intention. Again and again, people describe the sensation of being immersed in a love so absolute it dissolves every fear. For many, the most profound moment is not meeting the light, but re-experiencing their lives. Every kindness magnified, every cruelty felt from the other's perspective. It is a reminder that we are woven together, that our actions matter infinitely more than we imagine. Some accounts even describe mansion worlds, stages of learning where the soul continues its education. Each level is crafted to teach specific lessons. One realm focused on emotional healing, another on the expansion of wisdom, another on the deepening of compassion. Progression is not automatic. It is earned through effort, through sincerity, through the will to grow. Here, will itself becomes a vehicle. In the physical world, we move with muscles and machines. In these subtler realms, intention propels us. To think is to travel, to feel is to create. Consciousness becomes the true engine of experience. Other teachers have compared this stage to digestion. Just as the body must break down food into nutrients, the soul must process its lived experiences into usable wisdom. Every joy, every sorrow, every triumph, every mistake, all are broken down, integrated, absorbed, until they become part of the soul's essence. This is why nothing in life is wasted. Even our darkest mistakes become nourishment once we have learned their lessons. This is karma in its truest form, not a system of punishment and reward, but a school of cause and effect. Karma shows us the fruits of our choices, not to condemn, but to educate. The Vedic traditions speak of cosmic scribes who record every impression, every thought, every impulse. Not as external accountants keeping score, but as consciousness itself inscribing memories into the fabric of being. These impressions, called samskaras, become the seeds of our next incarnation. They shape the conditions into which we will be born, the challenges we will face, the opportunities we will encounter. We are not victims of fate. We are authors of it. We write our next life with the ink of this one. This understanding transforms our perspective on destiny. Every obstacle, every sorrow may have been chosen by the soul itself as the exact lesson required. Poverty to loosen our grip on materialism, illness to awaken compassion, betrayal to teach forgiveness. None of this means life's pain is trivial or should be endured passively. On the contrary, it means our struggles are infused with purpose. They are opportunities we ourselves selected long before we were born, as part of a curriculum designed for growth. Life is not random. It is intimate, deliberate, profoundly personal. Some seers have even described how souls gather in groups, planning incarnations together. A father in one life may return as a son in another, an enemy as a brother, a rival as a friend. Roles shift, but the lessons continue. We are bound not only to our individual growth, but to the growth of those who travel with us. Life, then, is a cosmic dance of souls, weaving together across centuries, trading places in a vast theater of evolution. Every relationship, no matter how fleeting, is more significant than it appears. The Tibetans went further, describing the mysterious visions souls encounter in the Bardo. They speak of seeing couples in union, symbolic doors of rebirth. The soul, pulled by karmic magnetism, gravitates toward the circumstances that match its unresolved patterns. Yet even here, choice remains. Some souls, guided by wisdom or by spiritual mentors, make conscious decisions about where, when, and how they will return. The womb becomes not merely a biological event, but a sacred portal chosen with care and intention. And so the great mystery deepens. Life is not something that happens to us, it is something we co-create, lifetime after lifetime, realm after realm. The soul is not a prisoner of fate, but the architect of its own curriculum. Each incarnation is a chapter, Each death is a pause, a review, a recalibration. Each return is a fresh beginning, seeded with the wisdom of everything that came before. The journey is not random. It is precise, purposeful, and endlessly beautiful. The deeper we explore this enigma, the clearer it becomes that birth itself is not the starting point of our journey, but the continuation of a decision made long before. Reincarnation is not an accident. It is a conscious process in which the soul, guided by higher wisdom, prepares to weave itself once more into the fabric of matter. Some traditions describe councils of luminous beings assisting in this process, reviewing the lessons we have mastered and those still unresolved, helping us choose the circumstances that will provide the greatest opportunity for growth. Others portray the soul itself as the ultimate architect, designing its next life with extraordinary precision, down to the family, the body, even the moment of departure that will eventually close that chapter. Rudolf Steiner described this descent into incarnation as a gradual process stretched over years. In the earliest stages of gestation, the soul only hovers, lightly connected to the forming body. The etheric essence, the life force, takes root first. The astral body, the seat of desires and emotions, joins slowly, integrating fully around the age of 7, symbolized by the shedding of milk teeth. Only much later, around 21 years of age, does the higher self, the I, fully manifest, bringing with it the full measure of individuality. This suggests that incarnation is not a sudden leap, but a careful layering, a gradual descent of the eternal into the temporal. The Vedic texts go even further, describing the exact moment consciousness enters the fetus, often around the 5th month of pregnancy. In that instant, karmic impressions begin to imprint upon the forming mind and body. Ancient Upanishads even claim the unborn soul is fully aware, remembering past lives, aware of its destiny, but temporarily silenced as it passes through the womb. Some accounts say it makes vows in that hidden place, setting intentions for the life it is about to begin. And then, at birth, that awareness is veiled. It is not erased, but concealed, so the new personality can grow freely without being overwhelmed by the weight of countless histories. Psychologists exploring altered states of consciousness have uncovered astonishing echoes of this idea. In deep regression or expanded states, people have described prenatal memories, sensations of warmth and confinement, awareness of the mother's emotions, even experiences of light at the moment of conception. Some claim to recall choosing their parents, drawn by bonds of unresolved karma or deep affection. Birth in this light is not random chance, but magnetic inevitability, the soul pulled into exactly the situation it needs for its next chapter of learning. The Hermetic tradition offers a poetic metaphor for this descent, a sacred forgetting. The soul does not lose memory by accident. It willingly veils its past in order to live fully in the present. If we remembered every life, every heartbreak, every loss, our current identity would be paralyzed under the weight. Forgetting is therefore mercy. It is a reset that allows us to step freshly into each incarnation. Plotinus, the great philosopher, likened this to the soul's fall, not a punishment but a choice made out of love. The soul descends into matter, into limitation, not because it is forced, but because it wishes to bring light into darkness, to transform density into awareness. Every birth is a sacrifice, an act of compassion by which eternity enters time. Some Kabbalistic teachings speak of hidden souls who incarnate for no personal lesson, but to serve the collective awakening of humanity. These are not the exalted saints one might expect, but often ordinary individuals strategically placed to influence the course of events in ways unseen. They may live in obscurity, yet their presence carries weight, like hidden lamps in the fabric of history. Their incarnations are vows made in the between-life state, promises to return and serve when the world most needs them. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, claimed that certain souls wait centuries for the right conditions to incarnate, coordinating their returns with other souls in their spiritual families. Artists, inventors, visionaries, he suggested their arrivals are no coincidence but carefully timed, appearing when humanity is ready for the gifts they bring. Michael Newton's research into life between lives supports this vision. In countless hypnotic regressions, people described councils of wise beings reviewing their progress, identifying patterns, and guiding them toward specific incarnations that would challenge, stretch, and refine them. The soul in these accounts does not passively receive fate. It participates. It chooses. This choice is not always comfortable. Some souls, driven by love or by the desire to grow quickly, select lives filled with hardship, illness, poverty, even betrayal. These are not punishments but curriculums. To the soul's perspective, a lifetime of suffering may be the fastest path to compassion, to humility, to wisdom. What we dread as unfairness may be the very medicine we once prescribed ourselves. This does not trivialize human pain. From the ground, pain is real, raw, and heavy. But from the soul's perspective, it is also purposeful, a crucible in which light is forged. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Bardo Thodol, describes how souls nearing the end of their sojourn between lives are drawn irresistibly toward rebirth. They encounter visions of couples in union symbolic of potential parents and are magnetically pulled toward the circumstances that resonate with their karmic patterns. Choice and compulsion intertwine. Karmic debts and desires narrow the field, but within that field, intention still matters. Some souls, through training or mastery, choose consciously, while others are swept along by the current of unfinished lessons. The final descent is not gentle. Birth itself has been described by psychologists such as Otto Rank as the ultimate trauma, the shock of vast consciousness compressing into the fragile nervous system of an infant. From infinity to limitation in a single cry. From the freedom of spirit to the density of matter. It is like a star condensing into a planet. The soul, vast and luminous, contracts into a body that forgets what it truly is. And yet hidden within that body, within every child, sleeps the wisdom of countless lifetimes waiting to be remembered. This is perhaps the greatest paradox. We are born as if new, yet we are ancient. We stumble through childhood as though inexperienced, yet our souls carry libraries of lessons we forget but not forever. Life itself, with its shocks and joys, its pain and beauty, is designed to awaken those memories at the right time. Every challenge, every love, every loss is a trigger, calling forth the wisdom we buried when we agreed to step once more into time. And so the cycle turns, death into life, life into death, each feeding the other, each revealing that existence is not a line, but a circle. To die is to prepare for birth. To be born is to resume the work we began long ago. And through it all, the soul learns, expands, and evolves, carrying its essence forward even as faces and names change. We are more than our bodies, more than our years. We are eternal travelers moving through countless worlds, and each incarnation is just another sunrise in an infinite sky. The more we follow the arc of this journey, the more one truth stands out. We are not fragile sparks extinguished by the winds of death. We are eternal flames, only shifting from one lantern to another, one vessel to the next. Life and death are not opposites, but partners in an endless dance of becoming. Each transition, birth, death, the time between them, is part of a single continuum, as natural as inhaling and exhaling. The tragedy is not death itself, but that we live blind to this truth. clinging to illusions of finality, mistaking the cocoon for the whole story and forgetting the butterfly waiting within. Imagine for a moment that you are more than this body, more than this name. Imagine that your life, with all its struggles and triumphs, is one chapter in a book you yourself are writing across lifetimes. Would you live differently if you knew this? Would you see your hardships not as cruel misfortunes, but as lessons you once chose? Would you treasure your joys more deeply, knowing they are not random blessings, but milestones on a road you have walked for centuries? Perhaps the greatest mystery is not what lies beyond death, but how differently we would live if we truly remembered who we are. The teachings of seers across ages converge on one message. Consciousness never ceases. Even when the body is gone, even when the brain is silent, awareness endures, expanded, luminous, free. This awareness is not just survival, it is education. In the between-life state, the soul becomes both student and teacher, reviewing, integrating, preparing. Some speak of counsels of wisdom who gently guide. Others describe reunions with soul families, companions who have walked with us through countless incarnations. Together they decide how to weave the next tapestry of experiences, each thread chosen for its potential to awaken deeper love, compassion, and strength. The shocking revelation is that we are not merely passengers. We are co-authors. We help design our own trials. That heartbreak you never thought you'd survive, you may have chosen it to learn resilience. That illness that forced you inward, you may have asked for it to awaken your compassion. That betrayal that shattered your trust, perhaps it was the lesson your soul knew would crack you open to forgiveness. From the soul's vantage point, nothing is wasted, nothing is without meaning. Life is not happening to us, no, we are participating in its creation even in the moments we least understand. This understanding turns suffering on its head. Pain is no longer meaningless cruelty. It becomes a disguised teacher carrying precisely the lesson required. This does not mean we should romanticize suffering or accept injustice passively. On the contrary, it calls us to face hardship with courage, knowing it holds seeds of transformation. When we resist, we prolong the lesson. When we accept, we unlock the growth hidden inside it. Seen from this perspective, every trial is a doorway, and the key has been in our hands all along. Death, too, shifts its meaning. Instead of a terrifying void, it becomes graduation. We leave the classroom of earth, take a breath, review our lessons, and prepare for the next course. The period between lives is like a cosmic university where we digest what we have learned, heal what still aches, and select the curriculum for the future. And then, when the time is right, we step once more into matter, veiled by forgetting but carrying the essence of all we have gained. Each lifetime is a semester, each death a recess, each rebirth another chance to continue the great work of the soul. The implications are profound. If this is true, then life is far too precious to be squandered on trivialities. Every moment matters, but every choice reverberates, every act of kindness ripples across eternity. We are not here by accident. We are here because we chose to be, because our souls saw in this exact moment, in this exact body, in this exact set of circumstances, the perfect field for growth. The question is not whether life has meaning. The question is whether we are ready to claim it. Perhaps this is the real enigma of the soul. Not what happens after death, but what we do while we are alive. We spend so much energy fearing the end, yet the true mystery is unfolding right now in every breath, in every choice. Eternity is not only waiting beyond the grave. It is alive in this very moment. To live with that awareness is to transform life itself into a sacred act. Eating, speaking, loving, grieving, all become holy when seen as part of the soul's eternal evolution. This realization strips death of its terror and life of its smallness. It reminds us that we are not random creatures clinging to brief sparks of pleasure before being swallowed by nothingness. We are eternal beings, divine travelers, carrying the light of countless lifetimes. Death is not our enemy, but our ally, guiding us from one stage of growth to another. And life, fleeting as it seems, is the most sacred opportunity we have, a chance to awaken, to expand, to embody the truth of what we are. So the question is no longer, what happens when we die? The question is, how will we live knowing we cannot die? Will we continue to sleepwalk through existence fearing shadows and clinging to illusions? Or will we awaken here and now to the magnitude of our true nature? The choice is always ours in life, in death, and in every space between. If you are listening to this now, it is because something within you already knows. A part of you remembers the vastness you came from and the eternity you are returning to. The veil is thin, thinner than you imagine. The very fact that you are drawn to these mysteries is proof that your soul is stirring, ready to remember. And once you remember, nothing is ever the same again. Death ceases to frighten, life becomes sacred, and every moment, even the smallest, shines with the light of eternity. Perhaps that is the greatest revelation of all. The enigma of the soul is not hidden in the spaces between lives, but alive here, in this breath, in this choice, in this very moment. We are eternity disguised as humanity, infinity playing at being finite. And when the disguise falls away, when the play ends, we do not vanish. We simply bow, step off the stage, and prepare to return again, wiser, freer, more luminous than before.